Greetings, NFL fans. Today is Tuesday, December 30th.
What the heck was that?
That was my phone falling down. My bad.
Moving on.
Frank's overcome with sadness at the end of the year.
I thought we would get through an entire year without any snafus or hijinks on this show, but that is the first mistake we've made in 2014, so congrats, Frank.
I appreciate it. Yep, I'm here for you.
That and picking the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl. I'll answer that one.
Hey now. I was actually trying to pick Michigan to win the national title. I guess that was it. I don't know.
Anyway, we are headed into the playoffs finally, which is awesome. I mean, there's no better month than January. I would put the month of January up against the month of March. I really would. That's another debate for another time, but I love the month of January for all the bowl games and the playoffs and all that stuff. But let's just talk a little bit. Let's wrap things up because Black Monday was yesterday. We had a busy day. 5 coaches, if you're counting Tony Sparano, met their fate. So there's 5 head coaching vacancies. Looking at the Bears, Jets, 49ers, Raiders, and Falcons, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's it.
So I think we saw all of them coming. I don't think anything was too big of a surprise. There wasn't anything that left us scrambling. We actually had a bunch of stuff pre-written that we were able to kind of put out there right away. It wasn't really that crazy. It was kind of like writing the obituary and having in the can for, Bob Hope. I guess Bob Hope hung on for a while, but you knew he was eventually going to die, and we knew that these 5 guys.
Everybody will, Kevin. Everybody will.
That's true. Get to work. Anyhow, so what was your big takeaway from the day, Frank?
It was kind of quiet, to be honest. We always talk about Black Monday and think about Black Monday being this crazy, like everybody's getting fired and all these moves are being made. But like you said, there was nothing surprising. All 4 guys who got fired. Nobody was like, oh my God, Rex Ryan. I didn't see that coming. And we all knew what was coming. And I just think that how quiet it was on Black Monday was kind of my takeaway.
Wasn't I think it was 2 years ago that there were like 10 firings, and you guys may have the same alerts on your phone, the Yahoo Sports app alert on your phone, and mine was dinging like every 20 minutes saying he's gone. So, yeah, exactly, yeah.
We should ring that up with Hawk Harrelson's and just play that. He gone. Grab some bench. I think that was the year that Lovie Smith finished 10-6 and still they missed the playoffs, and he met it on Black Monday, leading to the mess that happened yesterday, where both Mark Trestman and Phil Emery were excused from Hallis Hall, and now the Bears organization is even worse shape than what Phil Emery thought they were leading them into, and that. I know that the Jets finished 4-12. I think everyone is saying, okay, Rex Ryan needs a new start. The Jets need a new start. Obviously, the Bears were 10-6 that year, and probably, But I wonder if there's a little similarity here. If the Jets really know what they're getting into and casting themselves away from Rex Ryan, and here's where I think they're going to run into. Rex Ryan is still a beloved coach there. You saw it when they won that game. He got a Gatorade bath. Did he get? Yeah, he got a Gatorade bath, right?
He did, yes.
He did. I don't know. He probably got the game ball, just like Jim Harbaugh. And I wonder if that locker room is going to still be beholden to him and be resentful of the next guy who comes in, because it definitely happened here in Chicago with guys like Peanut Tillman and Lance Briggs and Devin Hester. Those guys wanted Lovie Smith, and I don't think they're still over the fact that he got canned. So it's you're making this transition, and you're saying, okay, yeah, we have to move on, but I'm not so sure that the people in that Jets locker room are going to move on.
Rex Ryan seems like very much of a player's coach, as opposed to someone like Jim Harbaugh, who seems very much like Jim Harbaugh's coach, and he's in it for himself. Ryan always seemed to have the players' backs in a way that a lot of other coaches didn't, and so for that reason, those guys are few and far between in the NFL.
I agree with you, Kevin. I think they might regret this. It depends who they hire. I mean, they could make a slam dunk home run hire and get Todd Bowles from Arizona, who I think is a really hot candidate, or somebody like that. But I think a lot of teams in all sports, they just feel the need to fire a coach because, well, that's what you're supposed to do when you go 4-12. Or that's what you're supposed to do when you miss the playoffs, without ever thinking is the guy we're firing better than anybody we can hire? Is this our best option to coach in 2015? And in the Jets' case, honestly, Rex Ryan probably is their best option in 2015. And
so you get rid of Idzik, you bring in a better personnel guy, and you still have Rex Ryan. We're talking about a guy who, over the last 5 or 6 years, has probably matched up against Bill Belichick better than anybody. And a lot of that has to do with familiarity and seeing him 2 times a year, but there's still something there, right?
Yes, and it's would you give the guy Mark Sanchez, Michael Vick, washed up Michael Vick, and Geno Smith, and he doesn't win? Well, okay, who's going to win with those guys? I think that, I don't think you can necessarily blame Rex for that, but maybe he can. I don't know. He's a defensive guy, and maybe it's somewhat on him that no quarterbacks have developed. Their offense has been terrible under his reign. But I like Rex Ryan as a coach. I really do. I think that wherever he lands, he's good. He's going to do a really good job. I think the Bears should be in on him. I think I think every team with an opening should absolutely be looking at him as the number one guy, unless you're really sold on Todd Bowles, which I could see because he's been a magician this year with the Cardinals and their defense.
So you're saying the Jets should bring him in for an interview?
Yes. Jets should just start the process over. Yeah, just bring him in for an interview, see what you got. But, I think you could have made the move that you really kind of, quote-unquote, felt you need to make by getting rid of Idzik, by saying, is the personnel, we're going to get a new personnel guy in here. We're going to change what we do. We're going to get somebody who fits what Rex likes to do, and we're going to go from there. I think you could have made the move that you kind of felt obligated to make that way.
And so much of being a head coach is being organizational and getting people on the same page and the emotional side of it. So it's like, why don't you keep Rex Ryan in there? He's a good organizer. He's a good leader. And then find the better fit for offensive coordinator, or like you said, GM. I don't think NFL teams do that enough.
Well, what's the break point, though? I mean, at what point, what would Rex have to do under that theory to get himself fired? At what point do you say, all right, it is the coach's problem?
Well, I think like last year they gave Rex Ryan the get out of jail free card, right? I think people kind of thought, oh, maybe it was coming. Well, he gets that, and then you have 4-12 the next season. So I think that was the breaking point. I think that's your answer.
There is something to be said for maybe it's just time. Even though Rex is a good coach, I think, and even though, I don't know that they're going to do better. Maybe it's just, hey, he needs a new start. The Jets need a new start, need some new blood. There is something to be said for that. I think there's absolutely something to be said for, hey, we haven't made the playoffs for 4 straight years. His message is getting a little old. Maybe he's too much of a player's coach, whatever you want to say. And then, you know what? That's a fair argument to make.
So, Frank, you and I were talking yesterday, and we said if there was one surprise that should have been out there and probably should have happened, and I don't think it would have been a surprise in the fact that I think it would have been deserved. How does Joe Philbin still have a job in Miami?
Yeah, that was
over the last 2 years. The nonsense that's going on in that locker room, the results on the field, he just has done nothing. He just, how are you ever going to get to a Super Bowl, Joe Philbin?
And that's the thing.
It's not going to happen.
It's like you look at what happened. Okay, Stephen Ross, after they beat Minnesota, and I don't know why he chose this moment, but Joe Philbin's my guy. He's my guy. Oh, okay. So because Minnesota's punt block team isn't that good and Miami got a block punt to win, all of a sudden Joe Philbin's your guy. Okay, whatever. And then week 17 comes. They get blown out by the 3-12 Jets. Mike Wallace at one point quits. Literally, that's the story. He says he got benched, but Mike Wallace literally tells the coaches, apparently, this is Jeff Darlington who said this, NFL Network reported that Mike Wallace just told the coaches, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. Yeah. Well, does that happen with a real coach?
Mike Wallace, a player who has absolutely no benefit of the doubt. I mean, he does not deserve it. So, yeah, I think he did quit.
So let's ask this, and I think it's fair. If Stephen Ross doesn't say after the hoopla of the Minnesota game, whatever that game was that big of a deal, then they got eliminated from the playoffs anyway. If he doesn't say that day, Joe Philbin's my guy, if he's making the decision Sunday night, is it different? I really wonder. I wonder if you look and you say, my God, we're 8-8. We have a much better team than 8-8. We beat the Patriots in week 1, and we still didn't make the playoffs. Does he make a different decision if he hadn't boxed himself in that corner? I really truly wonder.
Do you really think that a guy like that would giddily box himself into a corner that way, though? With just an offhanded line like that?
I guess not. I guess that it's hard to logically think that he would just get swept up in the moment like that. But I don't know why. I just don't know. Yeah, what do you see from that team that makes me think, yeah, they're heading in the right direction? I think they underachieved this year. I think they're much better than 8-8. I think they have a great roster. If you put Rex Ryan on that team, you put Jim Harbaugh on that team, which I guess maybe he was going to go to Michigan no matter what. But I think that they have different results with a better coach.
What's wrong with that franchise? We've talked about it being the biggest sleeping giant in the NFL, maybe if they have a new stadium, right? What is wrong with that team? They've done any number of things over the last 20 years, from bringing Nick Saban in to bringing Bill Parcells in to Jimmy Johnson. What's wrong? I mean, what at the root is the cause of it? I mean, you can't say, hey, it's the McCaskey family who's owned it for generations. It just kind of just is there, underachieving year after year.
Here's a question, and it's probably silly, but is it possible being in Miami hurts them at the end of the day? There's a lot to do in Miami. It's a place. Let's put it to you this way: if you're playing for the Green Bay Packers, you're probably concentrating on football most of the time. Like, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna go to a Fleeting Farm and go, get some hunting gear? No, you're probably gonna be in the facility more often than not because it's warm. I don't know I just don't know.
The Heat did okay.
It's the equivalent of NFL's equivalent of Wrigleyville. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, yes. It could be. I mean, why? Is there a possibility of just literally being in Miami, being in that scene? It'd be like if they had a team in Las Vegas. That team would probably go 3-13 every year.
Why not? But why not use that the way that the Heat did? To lure people down there, to lure guys out of Green Bay.
I think that they've really tried, and they've done some. I mean, last year, Jeff Ireland, as last year's GM, signed every single free agent he could. They've tried. They've brought in coaches, like Kevin said. They haven't had a great quarterback. That doesn't help them. But, I mean, the whole Culpepper over Breeze thing, it really, really killed their franchise. But I don't know why it is. But they're in a malaise. They just can't get out of it. They're a really just kind of floating franchise. It's just always kind of there. Nobody pays attention to them because they're never that bad, but they're never really that good either.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's weird that they've become that bad. Growing up with the Dan Marino and all that, and then of course, Jay's era was the undefeated.
No, that was well after my era. That was about 20 years after me. I was the leather helmets.
Helmets.
No, I agree. That's a one franchise. It's just kind of strangely like you could see. I mean, the Browns, the Lions, whatever. They've been bad for a really long time. Miami, I just don't get. They should be probably better than they are. You're right.
Yeah. Anyhow, that brings us to the Bears, who are in their own mess. They get rid of Phil Emery. They get rid of Mark Trestman. They get rid of Aaron Kromer. You have to figure that Mel Tucker's out the door. I don't know if he just wasn't able to be reached by phone yesterday or what the hell happened. But
I don't get that either. I don't.
And
who do they get? That's the question. Let's spin it forward because we've talked about Trestman a lot. Who can the Bears really get? I mean, they should after they every team does the yin yang thing where you hire this kind of guy first, he fails, you hire the exact opposite guy. Well, they went totally out of the box for Trestman. CFL, offensive master. So they're going to make the dullest hire they can possibly make right now, right? It's got to be the most traditional hire ever.
Norv Turner.
They have been so cheap over the years, and now all these stories are coming out that Virginia McCaskey's 91 years old and is pissed off and blah, blah, blah. You know what? The Bears haven't been good for 25 years. Like, why is it taking her now to be embarrassed and pissed off? She wasn't embarrassed when the Packers and Brett Favre were kicking the crap out of her team all the 1990s and most of the 2000s. Like, what the hell? And I just don't buy any of it. And I said this on Twitter, and it got retweeted by so many people in Chicago because they feel the same way. Said, am I glad that the McCaskeys finally quickly admitted a mistake and moved on? Something they didn't do with Dick Duran or Dave Wanstead. Yes, I am ecstatic. Do I have any faith that George McCaskey or Ted Phillips is going to identify the right people? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I thought they had stepped out and moved out of the box by bringing in someone like Phil Emery. And yeah, Phil Emery had some good ideas, and Bill Barnwell on Grantland wrote the GM of the future, and 2 years later, the guy's looking for work.
When's the last time?
I mean, stuff happens. That happens. Sometimes you're going to miss on fires, and as long as they're moving on, great. But But yeah, I don't, who are they going to bring in? I will tell you this: whoever they do bring in, I can't see how that person, that GM, and that coach is going to willingly stake their chance on Jay Cutler. I think Cutler's gone.
No, I think you trade him.
I don't think there's a question.
He's
the problem
coached
is
3 coaches now at this point.
The problem, yeah, really. The problem is, what do you trade Jay Cutler then and start over a quarterback with what pick do they have? 10th, about in that area. I mean, who are you going to get with the 10th pick?
Seventh pick, and the draft is in Chicago, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's not going to be a quarterback at 7 you're really going to fall in love with. I can guarantee you that. It's not a very strong quarterback class. Here, real quick question: when's the last time the Bears won a playoff game? I know they won 2010. They beat the 7-8 or 7-9 Seattle Seahawks, who came off the Beastquake game, and they made the championship game and lost. Other than that, when's the last time they won a playoff game?
2000. I mean, they only made it 2 times under Lovie Smith, right?
Jeez. And they lost the one year. They went 13-3. They lost in the first round to Philly, right?
Yeah, that was like 15 years ago. Thanks, Frank.
Right. I mean, but we're talking about the Dolphins being that franchise. What about the Bears?
Yeah.
I mean, they've won one playoff game in 16, 18
well, I mean,
years. Is that right? Am I missing
That's ultimately what got Lovie Smith fired. It's like they would win 9 and 10 games, but they would be missing the playoffs. They couldn't win the division. They couldn't get that playoff berth. They made it in 2006, busted out in like 2007, had an awful season. 08 and 09 were bad. I think they lost like Houston, one of the final games of the season, to miss out. Right. And yeah, then they got back. They beat that Seahawks team, and then Jay Cutler gets hurt in the first half of the NFC Championship, and that was that. So
it's crazy. So we're looking at a Bears team where what's the selling point? If you strip away, the history and all that, you're in a great city. You have a lot of history and fans. Yeah. I think that's a great.
They've got to put up money. The selling point is you're rich. You have a rich franchise. You have a rich history. You have a great fan base. That's what you sell, and you sell what they're selling to Joe Madden and the Cubs. Like you win a Super Bowl in Chicago. Look how they're still talking about Mike Ditka. They'll still talk about the next person who wins it. So.
But if you just look at it as a football sense, this is a team that hasn't had much success lately. Their roster is probably worse than we think. I mean, because they have a lot of stars, we think they're good. But they're probably going into great unknown quarterback.
You look at what they've done as Lance Briggs and Charles Tillman have deteriorated. They just have done nothing really to bring anybody in. Yeah, they went out and Willie Young had a nice season before getting hurt and whatever, but.
He's not a guy you're going to take a head coaching job for, though. You're not going to be like, oh my God, they got Willie Young.
Kyle Fuller's a good piece.
So, if we're looking at these 5 jobs,
size it up. Which job is the best of these 5 that you got?
I honestly think it's the Falcons.
I would agree, just because of the personnel that they have there.
Right. They have Matt Ryan. They got a couple other guys. Matthews, their left tackle, played really well late in the season after a tough start. They got Julio, who's just a freak. I think, but the problem is it's not a great historical job. You don't have a lot of a great fan base, great history, anything like that. You are going into a new stadium in a few years. That helps. I think that's nice. I think a 49ers job is tremendous, just because of they're in a new stadium, but yet you're working with a front office that just got rid of a guy who's 49-22-1. So I don't know. And Colin Kaepernick is kind of a building project. All these 5 jobs has
flaws. Red flags all around it. So you really want to deal with the York family and Trent.
I think that we all can agree. Let's say Rex Ryan, just because we've been throwing his name out there a lot. Rex Ryan takes that job. They go 12-4 next year. Would you be surprised? I wouldn't.
You think they could? They have a lot of talent. The way that the defense is aging and is injured. Do you think that they've got the ability to do that?
They do have a lot of talent. I mean, Bowman comes back. Borland's a really good player. Aldon Smith, if he can stay out of trouble. If Kaepernick, you can get something out of him. And I just think there's a lot of talent. Of all the 5 rosters, I think that they're the deepest and the most talented. I think that even though the Falcons have the quarterback, who you'd probably want to work with. I don't think that their roster is that deep. I think they have a few good players, but it's not deep by any means.
Yeah, the Falcons, I think, actually fielded a couple of high school kids on the offensive line on Sunday because that vaunted quarterback was on his back more than he was standing up.
And I don't think their defense fielded anybody. I think Carolina just did that drill, playing against air. I don't think that they were even. I'd probably rank it the Raiders the worst, just because. Until you prove to me that you can get a free agent there, I think that job is toxic. I think that, Carr and Mack are great rookies and they had great years, but
the AAA organization.
It's just you don't even know where they're going to be in 2016. So I think that's a tough sell for them. I honestly think Sperano gets that job. I think that they're just going to find that nobody wants that job, and they're going to have to say, "Well, Sperano won 3 of his last 6. Hey, we're building something." I think they're going to have to talk themselves into that. I think that the Jets are probably the second worst job just because terrible history, no quarterback whatsoever, no offensive playmakers at all. I think there's a lot of work to be done there. I think probably the Bears are next in line, and they're probably closer to the Jets than they are to number 2, just because you're going into the great unknown at quarterback. I think you trade Cutler, and I think you're going to find somebody to take him. And then I think you go, and I think probably the Falcons number 1 and the 49ers number 2.
Let me ask you this, guys. There's been a lot of talk in Chicago this week about the Bears' history. They always go with the defensive coordinator. They never go with anyone with head coaching experience.
Would
you rather have somebody, all things equal, would you rather have somebody, well, I shouldn't say all things equal because it can't be equal when you're talking about this, but would you rather have the hot coordinator or would you rather have someone with the head coaching experience?
Well, it's the thing is the guy with head coaching experience probably got fired. He probably just didn't step away for a sabbatical and is coming back. You're not getting Bill Cowher. So, I will
tell you that Cowher's name was at the top of Comcast Sportsnet's.
I saw that. I didn't get that at all.
What the hell?
But there's a huge difference in head coaching experience.
Bill Cowher has no interest in getting back into this boondoggle.
I was talking about that with somebody the other day of let's say you're John Gruden and you're probably working 50 days a year maybe 80. I don't know if he does a lot of that. He does a lot of
tape room thing that he's
probably right. He's making $2 million a year conservatively. Why is he gonna? Okay, he could make $6 million a year. He's gonna be up at 4 a.m. and pulling out his hair and having to deal with these guys in the media and working 80-hour. John Gruden ain't coming back. He's got a ring. Same with Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher's got a ring. Why would you go through that? You have a good life. You can hang out with your family. You've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish.
I think Chuck Noll could get out of the grave and go to Bill Cowher's house and be like, "Hey man, come back and coach the Steelers. Mike Tomlin wants a year off," and Cowher would still say no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, but the point being that there's a big difference in head coaching experience. Rod Marinelli and Rich Kotite have head coaching experience. I don't think I'd want them. They had bad head coaching experience. So I'd probably be a coordinator guy, but I'd also wouldn't be opposed to being a college guy either. I think Chip Kelly's done a pretty good job this year, notwithstanding. They only still won 10 games. I think you just keep all options open and hire the best guy. I think the Bears sometimes have boxed themselves in.
I find it interesting that no one ever hires from within for that coach. No one ever says, "Okay, well, the head guy sucked, but here's a guy who was in our organization, who's familiar with the lay of the land."
Right.
And it never happened.
49ers might end up doing that. They have Jim Tomsula, who's their defensive line coach, who everybody seems to love. Vic Fangio is their defensive coordinator who's going to stay, and I assume he's staying because he thinks he's got a shot at that job. So the 49ers might break that mold, but I agree with you. It never happens.
We've talked before about a young player, whether he's got talent. Should he go and be a running back? Should he be a tight end? Should he be a wide receiver? Which way should he go? What if you're a young coach, and you've got some measure of talent? Because as we just said, college coaches get that label unfairly or fairly. Pro coaches have another label. If you're a college guy, if you're a young coach, do you try to get on the college track or the pro track?
It depends what you want to do, I guess. There's such different jobs. They're just crazy different. That's why the Harbaugh thing blows me away. I don't know why Jim Harbaugh, successful NFL coach, would want to go back to college. It's just me. I don't know. Maybe it's a better game. You could argue that. But I don't know why you'd want to go back into the recruiting misery.
You know that he's just going to be like the closer, though. He's going to have his guys out there, and he's going to show up for the blue chip guys. He's not even going to know the names of his third and fourth guys on the depth chart.
Right. But it's fair if you say I want to be a college head coach, I don't want to be an NFL head coach. Okay, that's fine. I don't think you're dumb for saying it. It's just what you want to do. So I think if you want to be an NFL head coach, though, I think you got to go through the coordinator ranks. I think you got to work your way up, become a good defensive coordinator, and that's how you get your job. I think that's usually the way it works. I think it will till the end of time. I don't think that Chip Kelly's really changing that much. I think that you're still going to see NFL teams at first. That's why it's funny that the Falcons hired a search firm. Like, why? I could tell you.
That was the talk.
Hey, me.
That exact line was the talk all through the press box on Sundays. Like, we could sit here and have a notepad out and come up with 5 quality names, and we would charge them a hell of a lot less than the search firm.
Yeah. Like
I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to be really pissed off when Ernie Accorsi brings Jim Fossil back and sells the caskets on him.
What is the deal with these coaches or these teams bringing in these consultants who Ernie Accorsi, nice man, he's done a great job. And then the Jets bring in Charlie Casserly and Ron Wolf. Like, these are Super Bowl winners. Well, Charlie Casserly won in 1991, and Ron Wolf won in 1996. Okay. Well, I like Ron Wolf a lot. I covered him. It doesn't mean that I'd want him picking my head coach 28 years after he won the Super Bowl. I'm a little surprised by all this. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think I understand it like on a college level a little bit, where there's just so many coaches out there. But NFL, when it's like, I guess maybe if it gets you out of the box of recycling the Norv Turners of the world, maybe that's good. But I don't know that.
What did Atlanta do? They put in a request to interview Josh McDaniels. Like, I could have told you they were going to do that. Okay, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, they've looked to Adam Gase too, and I think Dan Quinn as well. It's the same names. It's the
Dan
same
Quinn
5 names.
And Adam Gase,
right.
And Josh McDaniels, and Kyle Shanahan's popping up now, and Todd Bowles is going to be a hot name, and I think he should get a job. And Rex Ryan is in there too, and. Yeah, what? I don't know that anybody's really reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah. All right. So, Wild Card Weekend is this weekend. We will talk about that on Friday's podcast. Let's just talk a little bit about the schedule. Run through it here. On Saturday, the early game is Arizona at Carolina. The 7-8-1 Panthers hosting the 11-5 Cardinals. What a country! AFC matchup that night is Baltimore at Pittsburgh, which is a fun one. Obviously, a great rivalry that has popped up the last 15 years. Sunday, early game at noon is Cincinnati at Indianapolis. That'll be the game that probably everyone will forget ever happened. And then the late game is the big marquee game, Detroit at Dallas. That's at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's probably the one everyone's looking forward to the most, even though Donkey Kong Sue is out with a suspension. So
I was really honestly leaning towards picking Detroit in that game just because the one thing they do at a really, really elite level is stop the run, and that's what you got to do against Dallas. But then he does. What's he doing? What's he thinking? Like, what? Can't you just play the game without being a fill in the blank? You know, can't you just play the game without stepping on guys? Like, what? Why? What did that accomplish? Why did you think at that moment that was the smart thing to do? Can't you just play hard? And when you got Warren Sapp,
how are these guys doing any of this with so many cameras? Well, you watch that Texas A&M guy yesterday just throwing haymakers at players. What are you doing?
You don't think anybody's watching this, especially in this day and age? Like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I think that. And the thing about Sue that's interesting is he's obviously a free agent. And let's say you're the Raiders. I don't know. And you're just
Raiders probably give him an extra $30 million after seeing that.
Okay, let's take a more functional team. Let's say you're whoever, like the Houston Texans. And are you going to give that guy $100 million not knowing how unhinged he is? I don't know. I just think that it's got to be so disappointing for the Lions to. I think they have a good shot to win on Sunday. They would have had a lot better shot with Ndamukong Suh. And have maybe your best player, second best player, Calvin Johnson, go out and get himself suspended. You just got to throw up your hands. And
you got a number one pick, and you're a number one pick who's a talent. I mean, who's a great, game shifting talent, and he's going to leave town, and everyone's probably fine with it. Like everyone's just sick of it.
Yeah, and I don't know who's going to trust him next.
You sign into a contract where you pay him in cash after every play. You know, and if he makes the play, then you got a guy standing there on the sideline with an envelope. And if not,
just get somebody.
The Luther Campbell.
I was going to say, get somebody from the University of Miami to do it. He's already well schooled in it.
Exactly. Bonuses all the way around.
That's to me is just so like, what do you do? It's just so disappointing because that game really does have a lot of sizzle. Of all these 4 games, that's easily the best one. I think Bengals Colts will be good. I think Steelers Ravens is interesting, but I know Le'Veon Bell probably, maybe, I don't know.
They're looking for somebody, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the first game, which I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it turns out to be an awesome game. It very well could, but it's just tough to imagine that. And by the way, one of these 2 teams are going to be in the second round of the playoffs. That's what really kills me. It's like, oh, okay, Carolina Panthers at Seattle Seahawks. Awesome. Great. This is going to be such a fun.
Get on a plane, Frank.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll be at that Carolina-Arizona game, so in the interest of boosting page views, I'm going to say that it's going to be the most spectacular game of the season.
Oh,
I think that you need to tune in.
Right.
I just want to put this out
actually
here.
didn't play that bad on Sunday.
I just want to put this out here. I have no dog in the race. I'm not rooting for really any story here. I am rooting for maximum page views on Shutdown Corner. This is what I want to happen. I want the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I want the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. I want Tony Romo to reunite with Jessica Simpson in the next month.
On the Blue Dallas Star.
And then they signed Terrell Owens before the Super Bowl. Let's just do it all, and then somehow trade for Johnny Manziel to back up Tony.
Gino!
There's no question that I think the most interesting team in the Super Bowl would be the Dallas Cowboys. I think that it would be and not just because, everybody gets riled up about the Cowboys, but it would be literally a great story. It would be Tony Romo finally breaking through, Jerry Jones crowing all week to the media about how smart he actually was.
I was going to say, we need to put somebody on the Jerry Jones beat. Somebody just follow Jerry every step of the way.
I think Jerry would literally, I think I've even said this before, would literally just rent out an arena, like he'd rent out a Phoenix Suns arena, and just put a chair right in center court and literally talk for 7 days straight. I think they would just talk about how great he is.
Jerry Jones,
sell out. Sell out. Yeah.
If you look, honestly, Jerry Jones, and he's such a hot button guy, and I actually like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a brilliant guy, but even though he's a little bit of a cartoon of himself, he's made a ton of great moves. They're 12-4 with him calling a lot of these shots. He's the one that ultimately gets credit for drafting Zach Martin instead of Johnny Manziel. And he took so much heat for drafting Travis Frederick, the center, in the first round. Well, Travis Frederick's going to a Pro Bowl. Des Bryant, he took a shot on him. That turned out great. DeMarco Murray, all these guys, they're 12-4 because Jerry Jones made a lot of really, really good calls.
Yeah.
Credit where it's due.
Yes. I don't know if you read the story from John Mullen of Comcast Sports in Chicago, but a lot of it was about the fact that Rod Marinelli was let go. I mean, everyone here in Chicago was just crying that Rod Marinelli is no longer here. And I don't remember people kind of following him to the airport with tears, but the story was that Phil Emery asked Rod Marinelli to rank the coaches that were still in the running. There's 3 coaches: Bruce Arians, the second guy I forgot, and then Mark Trestman. Well, Marinelli said Bruce Arians number 1, the other guy number 2, and Trestman a distant third. And Emery, went ahead and hired Trestman, and Marinelli just quit in a huff, and that's what happened. So a lot of people.
Now, what's the story? You would know that. I don't. I only kind of know this story that. They asked Bruce Arians to do a fake press conference, and he wouldn't do it, and that's one of the main things that turned Emery against him. Is that true?
Yeah, there was something like that too. The last head coaching search, if I remember right. But yeah, that Bruce Arians, they would bring people in and say, "Hey, go out and do the press conference," which is such a weird thing to me. I don't know why.
It's like a mock interview back in college. You got to get your khakis on and get everything adjusted.
Yeah,
especially
I just don't
Bruce
understand
Arians was just a coach of an NFL team for most of the season with Pagano's deal. He knew how to deal with the media. He's maybe the most media friendly coach there is. How would history have been different had they hired Bruce Arians? He's a great fit for Cutler. He's obviously a hell of a coach. I mean, he's going to win Coach of the Year probably. How would history have been different?
I've been going through all this. I've been having such fever dreams about this team that I was like, what would happen if the Cutler thing had not gone through and Peyton Manning ended up on the Bears?
Those are fever dreams? Yeah, it's a little bit disturbing there, dude.
They made a lot of, just one of these, like, if you choose path A instead of path B, your entire history is different. And that's the Chicago Bears, a lot of regrets there, a ton. And number one, I mean, really, the Bruce Arians thing is just wow. He's maybe the best coach in the NFL, and you just fired your guy after 2 years, and you had a shot at him.
You talk about a guy who Chicago would just love, Bruce Arians. Everyone would be wearing those glasses, and then wear them to Wrigley for Joe Madden Day now. Missed opportunity. Let's move on to the lightning round, and let's wrap this up before the new year. This is our last podcast of the new year, which is kind of crazy. Like we said, we'll be doing the playoff previews on Friday's podcast, so come back for that. Anyhow, lightning round with Frank Schwab, 3 minutes. All the questions we can ask starts now. Jay, you are on the clock.
Manziel, Hoyer, or other to start the first game of the Browns season in 2015?
I guess Manziel. Who are you gonna get? Who are you gonna get? That's the whole thing. It's like, okay, you can say, hey, we're looking for a new quarterback. Well, good luck finding one. There's a lot of Buffalo Bills will give for one, and the St. Louis Rams will give for one, and maybe the Washington Redskins. It doesn't matter if you're looking. Finding is the key part of that.
Your favorite memory of Kyle Orton?
Probably when he got helicoptered against Wisconsin, fumbled the ball, and Scott Starks took it all the way back for a touchdown for the most improbable Wisconsin win, probably of our lifetimes.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Double dark horse Super Bowl. Take Seattle and New England out of it. Who could it be?
I think it's, well, if you're just taking those two teams out, probably Green Bay. But my dark horse is Pittsburgh. I think that Pittsburgh could score with anybody. I think they're going to beat Denver in round 2 if Le'Veon Bell's healthy. And then Pittsburgh versus New England in the AFC Championship, yeah, why not? I don't think it would be a crazy, crazy upset if Pittsburgh beat them.
You live in Denver. What is the current outlook on the Broncos right now with the locals?
I don't think there's a lot of optimism. I think that people are hoping, but they're not optimistic. Last year was optimism, confidence. People really thought they were going to a Super Bowl. This year it's kind of like, maybe they could beat Pittsburgh on a good day. Or maybe they could beat New England on a good day. I think that people think they're going to get to New England and lose. If you polled all Denverites and asked them the truth, I think that they would say, yeah, we're probably going to lose.
Halfway through.
Team that made the playoffs this year that you don't see being back next year?
I guess I would. Probably Carolina. I assume.
Who we all picked last year, by the way.
A little bit better, but maybe Dallas. I don't know. It's. You know what? I didn't see how many teams turned over this year, but it's always a lot of turnover, and we'll see. 3-4 of these teams probably won't make it next year. It's just hard to say which ones.
Bengals finally win a game this year?
I do. I think so. I think the Bengals are going to play a lot better than they did the first time at Indy. I think they're just going to run the ball. I think they're just going to run it 40 times and win that way and take it out of Andy Dalton's hands, and I don't think Indy can stop the run.
Coach that was not fired yesterday that you see not making it to the start of the next season?
Lovey. I think Lovey Smith should have gotten fired. I think he was terrible this year, and I don't know. Well, he might make it to the beginning of next season, but I don't think he's making it to the 2016 season.
Mariota or Winston?
I guess you got to pick Mariota because, let's say, you got the number 1 pick. You almost have to be a little conservative, and I don't know that you want to hitch your wagon to Jameis Winston. He's going to have to kill it in these interviews, the combine visits. I have a tough time trusting him. Although, if you take everything else out of the mix and just go by what you see on tape, I think Winston would be the top guy.
Saints, how concerned should they be?
Oh, very. Their salary cap situation is terrible for next year. They were just built in a way to win, and then someday the Bills coming due. Well, we saw kind of come due this past offseason. It's really coming due next offseason. The Saints' future is not very bright, to be honest with you.
There's Dave Kaplan, a radio guy here in Chicago, has been trying to drum up the Sean Payton to the Bears thing, which is I don't understand.
Why would Sean Payton? That's a thing. It's like, okay, let's go through the mechanics of this. Sean Payton wants to go to Chicago. New Orleans says no. Well, okay, it's done. What?
You think any coach is worth giving up a first-round pick for?
I don't. I a late first maybe, but I don't think. Let's say you're the Chicago Bears and you have, what was it, the 8th pick? Is that what it is?
7th.
7th pick. Would you give up the 7th pick for a coach? No. God, no. I know Sean Payton's great. I know he makes a huge impact. I wouldn't do it. I don't know. Maybe other people think differently, but I wouldn't give up
If you were the Saints, would you give him up for a 7th round pick?
Yes.
Or number 7 pick?
I think I would, yes. If as a Chicago Bear, let's say you're the Saints. The Chicago Bears come to you tomorrow and say, we will give you the 7th pick for Sean Payton. I think I'd do it. I think I would say, okay, well, that's good, Sean. How much longer is he going to stay there? I think if I say that I would never give up the 7th pick for a coach, I think I'd also conversely always have to say, yes, I'll take the 7th pick for a coach. I think the only coach you wouldn't do that for is Belichick, I would assume.
It's interesting. It's very interesting, yeah. So then Rob Ryan gets the head gig in Saints. Is that what you do?
Line of succession.
That'd be awesome. I just want to see the Ryan brothers team up. Yeah, Sean Payton goes to Chicago. Rex gets the head coaching job in New Orleans, and then New Orleans becomes the most interesting team in the NFL. Like, I'm on board with this.
You mentioned in the power rankings about the Raiders. I don't know if this was a joke or somebody actually had this rumor, but Rex Ryan and Mark Trestman teaming up as a coaching team.
That was out there. Everybody
that
on Twitter.
Actually happened?
I don't know if it was like legitimately I'm reporting that this might happen. I think it was everybody speculating like, oh, they should go after Rex Ryan and Mark Trestman. Okay, well, why would those guys do that? That's such a bad franchise. I hate to say it. I have nothing against the Raiders, but if you're a coach, like last year, the Browns couldn't hire anybody. Bowles said no. McDaniel said no. I think somebody else said no. Well, the Raiders go face the same thing. You've just seen no coach has lasted 3 years for them since John Gruden. So let's say you're Todd Bowles, the Cardinals defense coordinator. You know that, I mean, you saw what happened to Dennis Allen, who was on the fast track to success. He's the next hot guy. He goes to the Raiders. He's terrible for a couple of years and gets fired. Well, why would you want to be that guy? You'd have to really, really buy into things are really changing with the Raiders, and I don't know how you could buy into that right now.
All right. Well, we will be back on Friday with our wild card playoff preview. We'll be here the entire month of January for all those great playoff games, and whoever gets there, Cowboys, Patriots, what I'm hoping for. But whoever makes it, we will be there in depth. This is the Shutdown Corner Podcast. I am Kevin Kaduk, here with Frank Schwab and Jay Busbee. We thank you for your time, and we will see you next time.